We're going to be talking about this major crypto dip here. What is the significance of this dip? Is there going to be a bounce back here sometime soon? What are some key levels to be paying attention to? I know that these are questions that are going to be on top of your head because these are some obvious questions that I think needs to be answered. We're also going to be getting into some major crypto news and economics news that could be affecting this markets, as well as some altcoin setups, which would include Velo, Merlin Chain, and Memecoin, MEMEUSDT. That is the actual name of the coin. See what's happening in these markets later in this video, but I think most importantly, I think we're going to be talking about Bitcoin first because that is the driver of this market. I talk about Bitcoin on a daily basis. First things first, I never trade altcoins without a clear understanding of Bitcoin. I am long on Bitcoin. I am long on quite a bit of the altcoins here. So my opinions on this market is bullish. But like the entirety of this video, these are just my opinions and not financial advice. You gotta form your own strategies and opinions. Now, these dips are common, okay? If you guys are new to this market, it might seem like the end of the world. It might seem like a very, just a gut wrenching feeling when you see these dips. But I've been in this game for 5 plus years. Um, it's not uncommon. It's actually very common. So when these dips happen, what do? I look for support levels to potentially get into a position, right? It could be a long position, it could be a short position, just depending on what the chart tells me. Okay, so let's just do. We're gonna do a little bit of a recap later in this video, but first of all, we're gonna get into some major news first before getting into the charts. So let's go ahead and get into the news first and see what others have to say, and I'll give you my reaction to what they have to say based on my own opinions. Now, this is by Market Watch. When the world's largest asset manager and the bond king both agree, run to gold, silver, and Bitcoin. Yes, I've been talking about this. I'm just going to give you my first reaction without getting into too much context. If you guys want to get into the context, you guys can. It is in TradingView, but I'm just reacting to the headline here. And based on the just what I'm seeing right now in the markets, right, especially with the key bullish points I want to make and I have been making, which is basically the FOMC, the Federal Reserve, has started its rate cut cycle, and that is going to jack up these asset prices, including Bitcoin, including gold and silver. So yeah, I still think we're still early in this bull cycle. Let's go to the next piece here, which is Dow Jones Newswire. Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP tumble. I mean, it's down like 2%. It's a little over dramatic. Yeah, for the other altcoins, for smaller altcoins, yes, it's down quite a bit, right? But I mean, for Bitcoin itself, which is still the driver of this market, it's not down much. Okay, Ethereum down over 6%. Yeah, that's quite a bit for Ethereum. I am long on Ethereum. We're down quite a bit, but I mean, still, the focus is on Bitcoin. If Bitcoin bounces back, so will these altcoins. Um, this is by You Today. Strategy, which is MicroStrategy, unveils additional 99, almost 99.7 million dollar Bitcoin purchase. That's what I gotta do, right? During these dips, if I have the dry powder, especially during right now, I'm gonna be buying more long positions. I don't have dry powder right now. I am keeping my existing leverage positions from liquidating, but I am still long on this market. Next piece here is by Coinpedia. Bitcoin testing pivotal support levels below 113K. Is this the start of a major correction? I'm not going to rule out a big drop here because I've been telling you guys on my chart that there is still a chance for a pretty steep drop here because let's just come to the chart here, which is we're still in a rising wedge pattern. Rising wedges are bearish patterns. This is the daily time frame. And if we actually break down from this pattern here, this is the Bitcoin daily charts. If it breaks down by this point, for example, the price target would be just right underneath 80K now. Okay. There is quite a bit of support underneath the price action, including your daily 200 SMA, which I expect to be pretty strong support. That is currently at almost 104K. We are retesting some daily moving averages that we have just broken on top of. So this is why I'm not too worried just yet, because we're actually, if we actually take a look here, right, that Bitcoin broke above the daily 21 SMA, broke above the daily 50 SMA, broke above it, and now we're retesting it. Yeah, I mentioned that there was going to be a smaller rising wedge pattern here, and Bitcoin broke down way past its price target there. Okay, but I mean, I think technically speaking, we're still just retesting these moving averages there. So I mean, very important that Bitcoin gets daily candle closes back above these moving averages. Otherwise, it looks like we could be breaking down from this bigger rising wedge pattern. Now, price targets are estimates only, okay? It very much depends on what type of market we're in. I still think we're in a bull market, right? Um, if I'm talking about Bitcoin. If I'm talking about altcoins, it's going to depend a lot on Bitcoin, okay? In terms of price targets. So this is basically what I'm seeing for Bitcoin, some of these support levels, what to be looking for. I'm looking for a daily candle close back on top of some of these daily moving averages. That would be a good sign that we could get a bounce from here and still take another swing, potentially back on top of this, to this upper trend line here, or towards this upper trend line of this rise and wedge pattern, and see if we can actually break out of here, right? Because the stock market did, the S&P 500 did, and that is usually very correlated with Bitcoin. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to altcoins now. Let's talk about some altcoins which has been hit quite hard today. Okay, let's take a look into Velo. See what's happening with Velo since the last time I've talked about it, and see what has changed here. Daily time frame for Velo. Nothing has really changed, okay? Last time I've talked about it, I mentioned that it was closer to the upper trend line, but since this dump here, it is now basically retest. I mean, it's basically on, well, it's basically broken below the daily 200 SMA right now. Let's see if Velo can actually close back on top of the daily 200 SMA. That's currently at about 1.4 cents. Otherwise, it could potentially be coming down here for a double bottom. Okay, the next level of support I'll be looking at, if this continues downwards, would be about 1.3 cents, which was the previous bottom here. So let's see if that will form a double bottom. However, it is running within this bigger falling wedge pattern here, and falling wedges are bullish patterns that has a higher chance of breaking to the upside. If it breaks to the upside by this point here, price target will still be about 2.3 cents, okay? But a lot of it is going to depend on Bitcoin, okay? So read the Bitcoin chart first. Let's take a look into a smaller time frame, which is the 4-hour time frame, where there is a falling wedge pattern here. Okay, if this falling wedge pattern breaks out by this point, for example, price target would be about 1.5 cents price targets. Something to be looking out for. But also have to consider the downside of the falling wedges as well, because they still have a smaller chance of breaking down. If this thing breaks down, then that double bottom scenario looks like it's more likely. Let's take a look into Merlin Chain, which is MERL USDT. See what's happening with this coin here. This is the weekly time frame for Merlin Chain. This is a falling wedge pattern, which broke to the upside here. Now, the price target for this breakout would be about 75 cents for Merlin Chain. Let's take a look into a smaller time frame and see what it could be doing. The 4-hour time frame. Very important for Merlin Chain to break out of this upper trend line here, because I think on the lower time frame, right, there is a validated trend line here. And if it doesn't break on top of this upper trend line, this is the 15-minute time frame, then this could be forming some type of a falling wedge, which means more consolidation and more downside potentially. So this is basically what I'm looking at for Merlin Chain. Let's take a look into Memecoin, which is MEMEUSDT. See what's happening in this market here. Weekly time frame. Talked about a falling wedge pattern, okay, that broke to the upside quite a few weeks ago. It hasn't done too much. Now the price target for this breakout here would be about 2.7 cents price targets. Now, it has broken above the weekly 21 SMA and is currently retesting it. Very important to get solid candle closes above the support. Otherwise, it's going to be losing it. That is basically at where it's at right now, about 0.21 cents, the blue line. If it can stay on top of that, the next key level on this weekly time frame to be looking for is the weekly 50 SMA. That's currently at about 0.54 cents, the white line here. Let's go ahead and go to the daily time frame and see if I can get some more clarity on what Memecoin could be doing. Daily time frame, it is trying to stay on top of the daily 200 SMA, which is the orange line here. Okay, I talked about a falling wedge pattern here last time on this 4-hour time frame. Price target was about 0.345 cents. Okay, is it still valid breakout? Is it still a valid breakout? It is looking like the price action is trying to invalidate it. The level I'm looking at for potential invalidation is about 0.23 cents, right? Actually, it's basically invalidated it, in my opinion, because I already see a 4-hour candle close below this upper trend line here, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and invalidate this pattern. So, just because you see a breakout happening doesn't mean that the price action is 100% going to get to its price target. Like I said, price targets are estimates only. Very much depends on Bitcoin. Very important to be watching Bitcoin, because that could ruin the altcoin setup. So in this case, it broke out. However, it did not go 100% towards its price target. Fell way short, actually. So let's go ahead and invalidate this pattern, since it's already below the upper trend line of that pattern. And I'm going to say right now it's still pretty early to chart another pattern here. Actually, let's do this live. This could be a bigger falling wedge pattern here. Alright, here it is. Bigger falling wedge pattern here. Price target, which is basically measuring the opening of the pattern. And then you put it on top of an estimated breakout point. Let's just say, for example, it breaks out here. price target would be about almost 0.4 cents there if it breaks out by this point. So that is something I'm looking at for Memecoin, a possible scenario. So this basically wraps up for this video. Let me know if you guys want to continue seeing any more of these coins or any other coins in this market by dropping a like, comment, subscribe. I'll pick a request to do for you guys on a daily basis. I'll see you on the next one.